Beneath the pretty views, Malta hides some of the most unbelievable stories. Like the island where stepping ashore meant never leaving again. Or the chapel where a painting spoke and silence turned into belief. The cave where immortality was promised if you stayed. This isn't just a travel video. It's a revelation of the many stories whispered on Malta and the beauty shaped by them. Did you know that Malta is one of the world's smallest countries and you can cross it in under an hour? But don't let its size fool you, because this tiny island holds many secrets, including one that's older than the pyramids. And can you imagine that this ancient temple has been standing for over 5,000 years? Tucked away on the island of Gozo, the Gantija temples are made of towering limestone blocks, older than both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza. Too advanced for their time, they sparked legends. Some said a giantess built them, carrying stones on her head while nursing a child. Sounds far-fetched, but when you stand before them, it almost makes sense. But what's even more astonishing? While most of Europe deals with snow and frost, Malta enjoys something entirely different. It's never snowed here. Not once. Even in the coldest months, the island stays sunny and mild. It's like nature gave Malta a permanent holiday. And if that's not enough, there are no rivers, no forests, not even a single natural lake. Yet somehow, the landscape feels anything but empty. And just when you think it couldn't get more unexpected, turns out some of Malta's most beloved locals are cats. They roam freely across villages, harbors, and historic sites like they own them, and honestly, they kind of do. Also, did you know that Malta's most popular place isn't even on the main island? Just off the coast, on the tiny island of Comino, lies the Blue Lagoon, a stretch of water so clear and vibrant it doesn't even need a filter. Then, just as you're starting to think Malta's all sunshine and serenity, you turn a corner and find a red British phone box. Right next to a royal post box, still standing, still used. A leftover from British rule, blending right into the limestone streets. One more layer in an already layered island. And speaking of layers, have you ever heard a language that mixes Arabic structure, Italian rhythm, and English vocabulary? That's Maltese. It's the only Semitic language written in the Latin alphabet, and it tells the story of every culture that's ever passed through these islands. Comino Island. First, let's head to an island so small you can walk across it in under an hour. But what if I told you that this tiny place once held the power to decide who lived or died? Sounds dramatic, I know, but stick with me and I'll show you exactly how. Welcome to Comino, a rugged, sun-bleached rock in the Mediterranean floating between Malta and Gozo. It's just 3.5 square kilometers with no towns, no traffic, and only 2 full-time residents. If you've ever craved silence, this is where you'll find it. Most people come for the Blue Lagoon, and yeah, it's the kind of turquoise you didn't think existed in real life. Did you know the Blue Lagoon isn't even that deep? Most of it is just chest high. That's what makes the color so insane. It's basically nature's swimming pool. If you're looking for a quieter experience, take the path to Santa Maria Bay. Same glowing water, but with way fewer people. But how could a place this peaceful decide who lived or died? You'll find the answer up on the cliffs. See that squat stone tower? That's Comino Tower, built in 1618 by the Knights of St. John. It was part of a network of coastal defenses, but its role wasn't just military. In the 16th and 17th centuries, Comino was used as a plague quarantine station. Ships arriving from foreign ports were stopped offshore. If anyone on board looked sick, the entire crew was marooned here. No escape, no medicine, sometimes no second chance. For many, Comino literally became the line between survival and death. And now, it's a protected nature reserve and bird sanctuary, home to wild herbs, seabirds, and lizards. There's no real infrastructure, just a small hotel, a police outpost, and the kind of silence that hits different once you know what this island once was. Mdina. Now let me ask you something. Why would a city be called the Silent City? You're probably thinking it's just quiet, maybe a little sleepy. But the real reason? It's not what you think. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Mdina is Malta's ancient hilltop capital, frozen in time and wrapped in stone walls that have stood for centuries. Built high in the center of the island, it's been standing for over 4,000 years, shaped by Phoenicians, Romans, Arabs, and Normans. Its streets twist and turn like a maze, perfect for confusing invaders and hiding secrets. Did you know Mdina has no modern storefronts or even signs? No ads, no neon, nothing loud. Just soft colors, hand-carved stone, and buildings that whisper their history. Mdina feels different from the moment you step through its gates. The city is full of palaces and quiet courtyards, once home to Malta's most powerful families. That's why it's also known as the Noble City. You might recognize it too. Mdina has been used as a filming location for Game of Thrones, Assassin's Creed, and more, because honestly, it doesn't need set dressing. It already looks like a dream. So why is it really called the Silent City? It's not just quiet. It's silent because almost nothing modern is allowed inside. No cars, no traffic, no crowds or clutter. Just stone streets, a few horse-drawn carriages, and that eerie stillness that makes you feel like time stopped moving centuries ago. And when night falls, that feeling only deepens. The lanterns glow softly on golden walls, the air cools, the city goes still. And for a moment, it feels like you've slipped through history and landed somewhere that refuses to change. Qaraba Bay. Have you ever looked down at a place and felt like it was keeping something to itself? Like there's a reason it stays hidden, even when the rest of the island is packed with people? There is, and I'll show you what it is. From the trail above, Qaraba Bay looks like something out of a dream. A natural amphitheater carved into golden clay cliffs with a small crescent of sand tucked deep below. The cliffs seem to wrap around the bay like a secret being protected. No signs, no boardwalk, no sound but the wind. Just this hidden curve of the coast, glowing in the sunlight. Sometimes you'll spot a single umbrella left behind by someone who came early and didn't want to leave. And the path down? There isn't one, at least not officially. You have to scramble down steep clay slopes, dusty and crumbling under your feet. It's not dangerous, but it does make you ask, is this really worth it? Have you ever had a moment where you reached the bottom of a trail and realized you were completely alone? No crowds, no voices, just waves and wind. That's the secret Qaraba keeps. It's not that people don't know about it, it's that most just won't go through the effort to get here. And that effort? It protects the silence. What you're left with is something rare in Malta: pure stillness. Clear, calm water. A stretch of sand with no umbrellas, no music, and no one else in sight, just you and the sea. Locals call it a deserted paradise, and once you've been here, you'll understand why. Marsaxloch. At first glance, Marsaxloch feels simple. A quiet bay, colorful boats, fishermen going about their day. But look a little closer, and you'll notice something strange painted on every boat, something that's been there for thousands of years. And the reason why it's there? It's not what most people think. Marsaxloch is a traditional fishing village on Malta's southeast coast. Its name comes from Marsa, meaning port, and Xloch, the hot Sirocco wind that blows in from the Sahara. The harbor may feel peaceful now, but it's seen its share of history, including naval landings by Napoleon himself. Today, the real stars of the village are the boats. Known as luzus, they're brightly painted in red, yellow, green, and blue. Remember those strange marks I mentioned earlier? They're eyes, painted on the bow of every boat in the harbor. They aren't just for decoration. This tradition goes all the way back to the Phoenicians, and those eyes were believed to protect fishermen at sea, to help them find their way home, and to keep evil away from their nets. Some say it's superstition. Others won't leave shore without them. Beyond the symbolism, life here moves slow. Fishermen mend their nets by hand. Boats sway gently in the harbor. It's quiet, unhurried, and deeply local, especially compared to the island's busier tourist spots. It's also one of the most photogenic places in Malta. The boats, the light, the color. It all feels effortlessly perfect, but somehow still lived in. And if you're here on a Sunday, the famous waterfront market takes over the village. Sure, there's fish, but also local honey, homemade wine, spices, lace, olives, things that smell like the sea and taste like someone's backyard. Gozo Island. Gozo is full of legends, but one of them might actually be true. And once you see the place for yourself, it's hard not to believe it. Just 25 minutes from Malta by ferry, Gozo is the second largest island in the archipelago, but it feels like another world. Life moves slower here. The roads are quieter, the air greener, and the sky somehow wider. People say Gozo is what Malta felt like 40 years ago, before things sped up. And the island wears that pace like a badge of honor. You'll see rugged cliffs, sweeping sea views, and jagged coastlines that seem carved by myth. It was once home to the famous Azure Window, a natural stone arch that collapsed into the sea in 2017. But Gozo still holds other coastal wonders, like the Inland Sea and Wied il Miela. Locals here are known for being warm, proud, and community-driven. Farmers still work the land, fishermen still head out at dawn, and everything just feels a little more human. And yes, about that legend. Gozo is said to be the home of Calypso's cave, where, according to Homer's Odyssey, the nymph Calypso held Odysseus captive for 7 years, offering him immortality if he stayed. It's just a small cave above the sea, But when you stand there looking out at the endless water surrounded by silence, you start to understand why the story stuck. It doesn't feel like a myth. It feels like a place that remembers something. And if that's not ancient enough for you, Gozo is also home to the Guntija temples. Built more than 5,500 years ago, they're older than the pyramids of Egypt. Massive stone slabs stacked without mortar. No one knows how. No one knows why. But they're still standing. Popeye Village. This might be the strangest village in Malta. It looks old, but it's not. It feels abandoned, but it's full of life. And the reason it was built? Most people have no idea, but it's not what you think. Tucked into a cove on Malta's northwest coast, Popeye Village looks like a faded postcard from another era. Crooked rooftops, wonky wooden houses, colors that look like they've been bleached by salt and time. But here's the twist. This isn't a real village at all. It was built in 1979 as a movie set for the live-action Popeye film starring Robin Williams. And they didn't take it down. Instead, it stayed. And over time, it turned into one of the most unusual attractions in Malta. A part theme park, part open-air museum, part seaside oddity that doesn't take itself too seriously. You can walk through the buildings, climb the rickety porches, even watch actors perform songs or dress up like cartoon characters. It's weird, it's wonderful, and it somehow fits perfectly against the cliffs and turquoise water. But if you're not into shows or cheesy photo ops, there's something else. The view from above. From the cliffs looking down, Popeye Village becomes a perfect film set again, frozen in time, staged against one of the most stunning bays in Malta. It's not ancient, it's not sacred, but it's fun, bizarre, and completely unforgettable. Swejni Bay. From a distance, Swejni Bay looks like just another quiet stretch of coast. But there's something carved into the landscape here, something that's been shaped by hand for hundreds of years. You probably wouldn't notice it at first, but once you do, you'll never see this bay the same way again. Set along Gozo's northern shoreline, Swejni Bay is calm, simple, and surprisingly empty. There's no sand, just flat limestone and shallow water that gently laps against the edge. It's the kind of place where nothing seems to happen, and that's exactly why people come here. The cliffs nearby feel ancient and untouched. Fishermen launch small boats from the curve of the bay. Locals walk their dogs. The silence here feels almost intentional. But if you start walking along the coast, something strange catches your eye. The rock beneath your feet suddenly shifts from natural to patterned, lined, almost like stone tiles arranged by design. These are the carvings I mentioned, the ones shaped by hand, century after century. What you're seeing aren't random formations. They're salt pans carved into the stone and still used today to harvest sea salt the traditional way. Generations of families have worked this same patch of coastline, collecting salt from sun-dried pools in the rock. You might even spot someone out there, dragging a wooden rake through the shallows, just like it's been done for centuries. So no, Swejni Bay isn't just another quiet spot. It's one of the oldest working coastlines on the island. A place shaped not just by nature, but by people, slowly, patiently, and with a rhythm that hasn't changed in hundreds of years. Wiyad il-Ghasri. There's a place where the sea squeezes between the cliffs, so narrow it almost doesn't look real. You'd never guess what's waiting at the end of it. Wiyad il-Ghasri is a narrow sea canyon that slices deep into the coastline, flanked by steep, pale limestone walls. It was carved over centuries, shaped slowly by rain and sea, cutting its way inland like nature tracing a secret path. The water here is unusually clear and calm, and when the sun hits just right, the canyon glows in soft blues and silvers. But that calm can change fast. On windy days, waves crash deep into the gorge, echoing off the stone, turning stillness into sudden power. When it's quiet, though, it's a favorite for swimming, snorkeling, and free diving, a place where the world feels muffled and slowed down. Some even come for cliff jumping, though the sharp angles make it unpredictable. There are no shops here, no sunbeds, no noise. The spot is hard to find, and the path isn't marked. That's probably why even in summer, it's often just you and the sound of the sea. And then, if you follow the gorge all the way to its end, past the turns, past the narrowest stretch, you find it. A tiny, hidden pebble beach, completely walled in by cliffs. No fanfare, no crowds, just this secret pocket of stillness, waiting for the few who make it all the way. Some say locals once collected salt here before easier routes opened up. But today, it's something different. Wiyad il-Ghasri isn't just a canyon, it's a path, a tunnel. A quiet reward carved by time and meant for those who don't stop halfway. Valletta. It might look like a city built for beauty, but Valletta was designed for war. And if you don't know the reason why yet, don't worry, you'll understand soon enough. From a distance, Valletta glows with color and elegance. Bright balconies, golden limestone, narrow streets that feel made for wandering. But beneath that charm is a city with a very different purpose. In 1565, Malta was attacked by the Ottoman Empire during what became known as the Great Siege, one of the most brutal battles in the island's history. The Knights of St. John defended Malta and won, but just barely. And they knew one thing for sure: if the Ottomans came back, they wouldn't survive without a proper stronghold. So the very next year, in 1566, they began building Valletta from the ground up as a fortified city designed to repel future invasions. Everything about its layout was strategic. A grid street plan, unusual for the time, was used to allow soldiers and air to move quickly and to expose invaders to fire. Massive walls, bastions, and forts like Fort St. Elmo were added to secure the peninsula from every angle. Valletta was a fortress first and a city second. And here's the part that might surprise you. Today it looks refined and artistic, but most of its buildings were originally built for military and religious use. No fluff, no excess, just strong, practical structures that happen to age gracefully. Over time, Valletta evolved. It became a cultural hub, a political center, and eventually a UNESCO World Heritage Site, known for its Baroque architecture and dense history. It's also the smallest capital city in the EU, but don't let the size fool you. There's more packed into these streets than entire cities 10 times larger. You'll find colorful Maltese balconies, sunlit squares, and views of the sea on almost every side. Madonna Tapinu Mil Garb. From a distance, it looks like just another country church. But there's a reason this one stands alone in the middle of open countryside, and once you hear the story, you'll understand why people still walk here in silence. Just outside the quiet village of Garb on Gozo, the sanctuary of Tapinu rises out of the open landscape. No town around it, no crowd, no noise. It's hard to miss. A golden-brown basilica standing alone in a wide, windswept valley. The current church was built in the early 1900s, neo-Romanesque in style, elegant but restrained. But the reason it was built here, in this empty valley, goes back much further. Ask the locals why it's sacred, and they'll all point back to the same story. In the 1800s, a woman walking past the small chapel heard a voice coming from a painting of the Virgin Mary, asking her to pray. She listened, and soon after, stories of healing, protection, and answered prayers began to spread. That moment transformed the site. They didn't just preserve the chapel, they built the basilica around it, turning a quiet hillside into a national place of pilgrimage. To this day, people still walk here in silence, especially on pilgrimage days. Inside, you'll find a wall covered in offerings, crutches, baby shoes, photos, handwritten notes left by people who believe their prayers were answered. Even Pope John Paul II came in 1990. He didn't give a speech, he just prayed. And the name? Tapinu comes from Pinu Gauci, the man who helped restore the original chapel in the 1600s. But the soul of this place came much later, when something happened that couldn't be explained and didn't need to be. Dingley Cliffs. Dingley Cliffs are the highest point in Malta, but they're not impressive for the reason you'd expect. Give it a moment and you'll see why people don't come here just for the view. On paper, it sounds like a highlight, 253 meters above sea level, perched on the island's remote western edge, with wide-open views of the Mediterranean stretching endlessly ahead. And yes, the view is beautiful, especially when the sun starts to drop and the sea around Filfla, that tiny uninhabited islet just offshore, turns silver. But that's not really what stays with you. What surprises most people is the stillness. There's no crowd, no signs telling you where to stand, no shops, no noise. Just stone, sea, and air. Nearby, you'll find strange prehistoric cart ruts carved into the rock, reminders that even thousands of years ago, people came this way without fully knowing why. You expect it to be dramatic because of the height, but what makes it powerful is how quiet it is. It doesn't try to impress you. It just leaves you alone with the horizon. That's why locals come here, not to sightsee, but to think. To walk, to wait for sunset when the cliffs turn gold and the world seems to exhale. And Filfla, far out in the water, just floats there, off limits, untouched, and somehow exactly right. Fort Ricasoli. You've probably seen Fort Ricasoli before, even if you've never heard of it. It's been a silent backdrop in some of the world's biggest films. But the real story behind it is even better than the movies. It sits at the mouth of the Grand Harbor, low, wide, and carved into the limestone coast, directly across from Valletta. It doesn't draw crowds, no big signs, no tour buses lined up. But if you look at a map, you'll realize just how massive it is. Fort Ricasoli is the largest fort in Malta by land area. Built in the late 1600s by the Knights of St. John, its angled bastions and long defensive walls were designed to lock down the harbor and keep enemies at sea. There's nothing decorative about it. Just stone, function, and silence. And now? It's found a second life on screen. You've seen it in Gladiator, Assassin's Creed, and Game of Thrones. It's a go-to for ancient cities, fallen empires, and war-torn kingdoms. It looks right, feels right. It doesn't need CGI, it just needs a camera. But here's the strange part. Most people don't know its name. Even locals pass by without realizing what it is. And that's what makes the truth so much better. Because Fort Ricasoli doesn't just look like a place that survived war, it actually did. It's taken real damage. It held off real attacks. Its walls carry the scars of World War II, not set design. The movies came later, the story came first. And that's what makes it better than the movies. Bourguiba. Everyone thinks they know what Bourguiba is. Loud, touristy, built up. But there's something here most people overlook, and once you spot it, the whole place feels different. Set on the northern coast of Malta, Bourguiba is part of the larger St. Paul's Bay area. To many, it's just the classic holiday town: bars, cafes, beach clubs, souvenir shops, and a long promenade packed with people at sunset. It's true, Bourguiba is busy, especially in summer. The streets are lined with restaurants and hotels, and the waterfront is always alive with music, conversation, and movement. But spend a little more time here, and it starts to shift. You notice that it's not just tourists. Locals gather here too, especially in the evenings, meeting friends, watching the sea, taking slow walks along the promenade. It's one of the few places in Malta where you'll see locals, expats, and visitors all blending into the same space. And while it doesn't have a sandy beach, the rocky shoreline has been adapted into something better suited to Bourguiba's vibe. Sunbathing platforms, ladders into the sea, and flat stone edges made for stretching out in the sun. Then there's the part no one tells you about. Behind one of the hotels, almost hidden from view, are the remains of a prehistoric temple. It's small, quiet, and easy to miss, but it dates back to the Tarxian phase, over 4,000 years ago. Most people walk right past it without realizing they're a few steps from Malta's ancient past. Bourguiba isn't just the modern neon tourist-facing version of Malta. It's a place where the present is loud, but the past still hums quietly underneath. If you rush through, you'll miss it. But if you slow down, even just for a minute, you'll start to see it differently. Malta is layered, beautiful, and full of stories most people miss. Check out the next video to keep discovering more of our incredible world, and if you enjoyed this one, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.